the key manufacturer of AC generators with outputs of 1 to 250 megawatts. The generators are used in prime movers such as steam turbines, gas turbines, hydro turbines, diesel engines, and wind turbines. And of course, special applications such as geothermal and solar thermal equipment. The company on Tuesday posted over a 43% jump in its consolidated net profit at over 35 crore rupees for the March 2023 quarter on a YOY basis, mainly on the back of higher revenues. Total income, as I said, rose to about 250 crores in the quarter from 235 crores in the corresponding quarter last year. They had a con call yesterday, and post the con call, the market seems to have rewarded their guidance. Nikhil Kumar, Managing Director at TD Power Systems, joins us right now on the show. Nikhil, really good having you. Thank you so much for taking the time out.
Thank you.
And can you tell us what to your mind, how did quarter four go? And since we've completed a year, what were the signposts for you for FY23 as a calendar, as a financial year?
So we knew pretty early on that we were going to do around 805, 810 crores, and we have been guiding the market in this direction for for a number of quarters that this is going to be our financial performance. So I'm happy that we were able to stick to the numbers and do a little bit better than what we projected. So we have taken this viewpoint that we will give a realistic projection to the market and try to do a little bit better. Obviously we can't be too pessimistic because it's not the right way, but we like to be slightly below the reality and then do a little bit better. In terms of so we've seen this order inflow also increasing over the past few quarters, and we've been reporting the increased order inflow to the market. And this increased order inflow would eventually translate into higher sales. And that's, I would say, the milestones or benchmarks that we have used to tell our investors and the market that this is the direction in which we're going.
Would it be a fair assumption to think that without incurring significant capex, as well as with the kind of order inflow that you've had and the conversations that you may be having for FY24, that you will be able to clock in a better than FY23 growth rate for the next 2 or 3 years without these capex, without incurring significant capex, as I said?
We put in a huge capex during the IPO, and that capex. So that capacity, it lasted. It was about 750 crore at the time, and now we're talking about taking that capacity to around 1,250 crore. And my intention is to push that even further. We are not planning to put a huge big plant, but what we will do is, I've been saying this in a number of other calls with other investors, is that we will invest in smaller satellite manufacturing facilities. Like we will move out, let's say, for example, machining, and we will take machining and we'll put it out of the main factory and put it into a small satellite facility, maybe 15-20 kilometers away from the main plant, and free up the space in the main plant for doing more assembly work, more testing work, and then being able to deliver more generators. This way, we can increase the output without going in for major capex. I think putting up big capacity and putting up big capex is really easy. We have the money, we know what we have to do. The problem comes when you have a huge capacity and then you don't have the numbers to fill it. That really has a negative impact on the financial performance of the company. I've been there once, post IPO, and I don't want to, be back there again.
I get the drift, and hence, actually, the market might actually like it as well. That you believe, if I'm not wrong, that with that small capex cost that you might have to do in Q3 or Q4 of FY24, you might still be able to clock in strong growth numbers for the next 2 or 3 years, considering the kind of order inflow and the conversations that you might be having with customers?
Yeah, this year, next year, and maybe another year after that. So FY24, FY25, FY26. So constantly, as I said, we've also been investing in automation consistently over the past 3 or 4 years. So every year we've been putting in robots and putting in 15, 20 crores of in capital investment into improving productivity and output. And I think that's really paying off right now. We're seeing the output increasing and not increasing our fixed costs at the same rate. And we're going to continue on that strategy. And I think that will deliver superior financial performance for the organization in years to come.
Can you tell us about the landscape currently, Nikhil? Because what you're doing is one thing. You were also, of course, the motors to Indian Railways, and almost everybody is talking about how railways is finally coming of age for everybody in the ecosystem and not just maybe a player or two in the past. So can you tell us, for you, from your vantage point, the business landscape as it looks right now, which brings you this confidence of being able to deliver the growth that you're talking about or citing about?
So our business would be largely classified. Okay, you can say there are 4 major categories. Okay, one is the generator business, which is a domestic export. So that's again classified domestic exports. Then we have the railway business, and then we have the motor business, which is mainly domestic focus. You can say there are 4 major verticals within our business. The generator business is today the most important part of our business and is the largest part of our business. The export business within generator business is about 60%. So the export business is extremely vital for us. It goes back to what happened to the company post IPO, when the domestic market really tanked and we were forced to recover the sales by exporting. And it was a long, hard road for us to go out internationally and sell 30, 40, 50 megawatt generators and install them in countries like Germany or in Spain or in France. It took a lot of work from our side to get to that stage, but we have got to that point where we have those references and we have the credibility. So the European market or the Western markets in general are shifting towards more renewable. They're shifting towards biomass, waste to heat energy, garbage burning facilities. So there is a huge demand for such kind of power plants coming in the future. We're seeing that big inquiry inflow, and that is going to drive our growth in the future. Electric cars, domestic heating using only electricity, these things also will drive up demand for electricity in a major way in Western countries, which means they have to put up new power plants, and it's going to be only beneficial for TDPS because these are the macro factors which are playing in our favor. The Indian situation for the generator business is, I think that India is in a unique situation. We have our country has a huge potential to grow. I'm very, very optimistic about our country. We can become a manufacturing superhouse. We can displace China, and that is the plan. So we will need enormous amounts of electricity once again in India to achieve these ambitions, also to create the infrastructure. So I see, if everything goes well in India, I hope we'll have 10 to 15 years of expansion like what China had experienced in the 90s and early 2000s. We should also be doing that in our country from now to maybe 2035 or so. So that's going to drive the demand for generators. The motor businesses which we are in, these are again related to capex, the capex cycle, irrigation, and once again we are seeing, it's a huge market in India. So we're new in this market, but we have only space to grow, and we are going to grow in this business. Lastly, railways. You talked about it. Yes, India is really coming of age. Huge capex in the railways. It's going to be. There's a lot that we can do in putting up the high-speed trains, metro, and then the freight corridors, extending it nationally, and the number of locomotives we need to run the entire economy. If we get to 5 trillion or 10 trillion, it's staggering. The amount of growth, the potential is just staggering. I hope our country gets there. I'm sure we're on the path. and we will see this massive transformation taking place in our country in the next decade or so.
Okay. So all put together, you reckon this enables you to, like I said, in December to a broker, to an analyst or a broking house which had visited you, you guys sounded confident of that 20% growth for FY24, expansion in margins, looking at the fact that commodity costs are probably coming off, and you sounding as confident as you are right now, those numbers should be firmly into play?
For this year, yes.
For this year, yes.
And the order inflow is very, very strong, and we're seeing this momentum continue into next year also. It's early days to talk about next year, but we don't see any macro factors right now which is disrupting the energy business, the power generation business. Of course, there are headwinds in terms of interest rate increases by the Federal Reserve as well as the European Central Bank. Those are putting brakes on the European and American economy at large, but it's not going to affect the energy markets. And the demand for energy, the demand for electricity is going to keep growing, and therefore the demand for our equipment is also going to keep growing.
Okay. Does this thought around order inflows and the number and the numbers that you have in mind include this optionality of the, and correct me if I'm wrong, but of the 12,000 HP electric locomotives tender for?
Yeah, it's an important part of. Look, it's not in our hands whether our customer to whom we are currently supplying the traction motor, it's not in our hands whether they will win this tender or not win this tender. They may or they may not win. So if they win, it'll be great. It'll be golden for us. If they don't, then we have to always have backup plans on what we want to do.
Sure.
And that's how we're going to be planning our business.
Okay. One final question, Nikhil, and that is around. Maybe you are also watching not just the Karnataka elections, but the Turkish elections as well. But there's a lot of desire in the investing community to want to know, although it's not a very large portion for you, about the Turkey subsidiary, because I believe operations there have been suspended, at least as of December. They were suspended since April. What is the update there, if anything?
So the government has introduced new incentives. So they had incentives for locally produced generators, which is why we went there. And then they removed the incentives and the market crashed at the same time. Now they brought back the incentives to encourage local manufacturing. And, I don't know. I think, as a businessman, one has to be politically neutral. You can't take a position this way or that way. We want every government ultimately we want to do good for the people. So we believe that whoever comes into power will continue with the strategies to encourage growth in the economy. And the Turkish market is a big market. It's a power deficit country. And so I think it will take a little bit of time. It's not going to happen like tomorrow morning. You're going to see the order inflows coming back. But long term, it's a good market to be in. And secondly, we have a plant over there, and it's near, Istanbul is 3 days by truck from Frankfurt. So it's also important for us to have a plant in neighboring Europe. We have a large population of machines in the European Union. So it also acts as a service center for us. In case we need to give service for a large generator which is running somewhere in Europe, then we have the option to bring it to our plant in Turkey and giving service. So it works out for us both ways.
Yeah, but the currency volatility, which was cited as one of the reasons why the plant would have been shut, that may not necessarily go away, right?
No, it was not currency. We work with euros, so we're not really affected by the depreciation of the Turkish lira. But it's just generally when the currency is depreciating at that rate, a power plant owner will not be able to borrow in euros or in dollars because his repayment, he's earning in lira and needs to repay from a depreciating currency. It becomes extremely difficult for him to repay from a depreciating currency.
And hence my question.
People will not lend to him. People will not lend to him. Right?
So then what? Then there might be some time before this one comes on stream again, right? You will have to bide your time, I guess.
We have to wait until the economy stabilizes at large, and But it will.
But it's a small part of your overall.
Yeah, it's a small part. It played an important role. I mean, the thing is that even though the made in Turkey generators, and we're not producing generators in our plant in Turkey, whatever demand is coming from the Turkish market, we're making generators in India and selling them to Turkey. So we are meeting the Turkish requirement, Turkish market demand from our Indian factory because we created a good brand name over there and we have huge visibility in that market right now.
Okay.
It's long-term good for the company.
Got it. Well, Nikhil, we wish you all the very best for not just FY24, for other years to also be as good as you are penciling in and more. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Neeraj. Thanks a lot.
The pleasure was ours, and viewers, thanks for tuning into this conversation with TD Power. That's okay. Thank you. Thank you, guys.